gone from 8 down to only 5 here at the very end on the final lap as Will Lyon and Ryan Carwile are going to swap the lead. It's going to be Sanchez on the outside. Can Tyler maybe sneak it past both of them? Will the lap traffic play a part? Big lift from Lyon. That's going to send him backwards. Sanchez tries to find some clean air. They've lost ground to Carwile. Is it going to be close enough that they can catch him down to the finish? What about that lap traffic in front? That's Arribas trying to stay out of the way. He's actually helping Carwile. Carwile's got the draft, and he is going to take the win here at Indianapolis.
Looks like he might try to go around the outside here. Oh, it's going to be tight.
Lepisto wants another win, and
oh no!
They're going to come together. They're absolutely coming together, and one is in the barrier. The other just manages to stay off. Lepisto doesn't hit anything other than fair and growl, but there goes a potential win.
Yeah, massive chaos there for those drivers. Here is the replay of that. Yeah, the little tip there from Van Rassel. Ooh, talk about some narrow margins from Stephen Orrell.
I was going to say, there's still a chance that we could see a change of position here. Togo's a little too hot, but Ove Trangrade gets very close. Surely he's going to try and send a go. No, he's covered off as Miko defends the inside, down into the Casio triangle. Now he has to be smooth on the throttle to seal the deal, and he is, as he comes to the line, our 7th different winner of the season to tie the record. Miko Makela gets his first ever win here in Japan. Yeah, he's going to have to really dive in to try and take it here. Decides not to. Maybe into the Melbourne hairpin. Ooh, it's a fantastic run. And defending the 183, tries to cover him off. Now he's back to the racing line, sends it in deep. And can he get it done? We won't get to know because we have to go to Tom Layton, who is going to take the win. And with this, the championship for the 2022 Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing Series. Look at that, celebrating because he knows he has gotten it. It's going to be a race to the line. Look at this, a drag race down to it at the end. Will it be Mayorga or Bolton? It's going to be Bolton.
Welcome to the last race on GSRC before we ring in the new year in 2023. Today we head to Indianapolis for the Yard of Bricks, but not for the oval. Today we venture through the infield for the Indianapolis road course. A narrow track at times where multi-class racing is a challenge. However, that is nothing to deter these competitors. No, these racers relish the challenge of jumping through chicanes and slicing through traffic. Round 3 of the Camel GT series is now, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joey Atterbury, and with me in the booth today is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Joe Peak, and we're using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Indianapolis road course isn't necessarily new. However, iRacing recently updated its scan to reflect the current configurations. Let's head down to our track guide to learn a little bit more.
Welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. While the oval has been around for more than a century, the road course has only notched up a couple decades of running. Originally built to bring Formula One to North America's most famous track, it's gone through multiple layout alterations to arrive on the current format. However, in iRacing you can choose from 3 versions spread across various times. All are roughly 2.6 miles or a little over 4 kilometers and vary between 13 and 16 turns. The most distinctive and recognizable feature of every single one, though, is the blast down the front stretch over the Yard of Bricks. This run easily offers the best passing opportunity, especially in the older version, which includes oval turn 1 in reverse to help build up speed. But the rest of the track is a rather technical affair. The 2009 layout includes an extra loop in the infield that slows things down a lot. But the more modern one has a tricky and quick chicane that dumps you onto the backstretch. The bike course takes you in a traditional counterclockwise direction, but it's also much more rarely used. In the real world, the road course is raced by many different series throughout the year, including IndyCar, NASCAR, and multiple different sports car organizations. In fact, the Grand Prix of Indy has become one of the staples of the month of May in the lead up to the famous Indy 500. While the oval will always hold a greater prestige, road racing at the Brickyard is absolutely here to stay.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a track that fans and racers both enjoy. And to give us a little bit more insight, Adam, why don't you give us a little heads up on the racing we're going to see today?
Absolutely. The latest road course for Indianapolis Motor Speedway has proven to be quite a challenging track for all racing series, and not many of them risk a multi-class endeavor here, but who other than Kamel would try their hand at 30-mile-per-hour closing rates and 10-second delta between the lap times of the classes? The Nissans will feel the most at home here with long, sweeping, medium-speed corners punctuated by a few chicanes, some other long, sweeping, slow-speed corners, and also the beautiful banking of the Indy Oval. The places where the Nissans struggle, though, is where the Audi shines. Turns 1 and 2, as well as the final sector, are the only places where the GTOs are going to have a good time around here, with everywhere else emphasizing the ever-beaten horse of the Audi understeer. Multiclass here should theoretically be straightforward, but the Nissan is faster than the Audi at all points on the track, making the Nissans very impatient behind the Audis. Add to that 2 epic braking zones on the front and back straights that are your only real passing opportunities. We tend to see a few miscommunications, overeager dives, and comings together here. Regardless of how you feel about this track, you cannot ignore the gravity of its place in history, Joey, and you know that firsthand, having earned a trophy here yourself.
Yes, I do have a trophy from Indianapolis sitting upstairs from my days back in IMSA. It's always a cherished memory of mine. But leading into our points championship today, looking at these GTP cars, we've actually had 2 races so far. We started off with Nürburgring and then went to Manny Cours, a new track for iRacing, and surprise, surprise, Hugh Haycox dominated both races so far. He is your current GTP points leader, followed there by Timothy Reed. Farron Grau, another regular name who's been way up front here in these first 2 races. Aaron Humphrey, Fabian Jungbluth, Ardo Iamaki, Tim Yonk, Matthias Hovdahl, Brett Punkari, and Daniel Winnengeyer there in the 10th place. And with only 2 rounds, I'm sure that we're going to see more of these points change up through this race number 3 here. And Adam's going to catch up with the GTO points.
Yeah, absolutely. Yuko Leskola in a similar situation to Hugh, but not quite as dominant. Magny Corp being very challenging for Yuko, but still getting the win. And Andreas Schuster, consistent as usual in the beginning of the season, sits in 2nd position. Ian Haycox had a nice solid 3rd with Doug Cloud in 4th. Jamie Hamel-Smith only 2 points behind in 5th. Then it's a solid 3-way tie for 6th through 8th between Kurt Crum, Javier Del Olmo, and Kevin Parrish. And then we get Roger Christensen down in 9th with Daniel Repetto rounding out the top 10.
For those unfamiliar with Kamel, we just went through the 2 different classes. We got the GTP and the GTO, and to get into the race details, we mentioned today is race 3 of a 12-week series. 40-minute race for all of these competitors. Open setups. That means each one of these racers has tuned on their car, hopefully optimizing it here for this 40-minute race at this specific track. No spare car, so that means the damage that the racers pick up today, they will have to live with throughout the race. You can always come in and get it fixed on pit road, but your day is pretty much going to be done at that point. Drive-through penalty at 17x and a disqualification at 25. I don't think we're going to see any of our competitors get up there to 25, but we'll keep an eye on that 17x because it's easy to get a 4x if you get bumped off through these chicanes or pushed a little bit wide, and if you do that a few times, Adam, 4x's can rack up fast.
Yeah, absolutely. 4x's can definitely rack up fast. There's plenty of grass around here to collect your 2x's as well. So, yeah, I think that for some of these drivers, the incident limit's definitely going to be something they're going to have to be concerned about, especially with the closing speeds that we already mentioned. And so it's going to be a real challenge for these drivers to keep their noses clean around here. But honestly, more than the 4x's, more than the incident limit, just the time you lose from getting pushed off wide. Because of the grass, there's not a lot of tarmac runoff to get the speed back up going, so you have to figure out how to rejoin safely and then get back up to speed, and by that point, you probably lost 5 to 10 positions.
Yes, agreed. It's that track position, and taking a look at some of these cars on their qualifying laps right now, coming up to about 2.5 minutes left in the qualifying session. This is Xavier Sanchez making his way around in this very sharp-looking GTP car. He's currently sitting 13th on the board. I believe that this will be his second and final qualifying lap out here. His current is a 1:15.6. We'll see if he can improve on that. Looks like he is tracking a little bit to the good right now. And actually, I've been impressed. Yuka Leskala on pole for the GTO, but I noticed that Topi Kortanyami was up there sitting provisional pole before Yuka kind of snatched that away just there. And looks like Xavier is going to go down to, no, I'm sorry, he's going to improve his time up to 13th there as everything kind of gets settled out here. And Adam, this is another one of our regulars, Antti Lepisto out here. He's won several races and always fast.
Absolutely, always fast is Antti Lepisto. Currently, right now, less than half a second behind Hugh Haycox, who currently has the provisional pole position in the GTPs. Alex Ott, a really good lap for him in the second position. Great to see a good field represented here today, especially on New Year's Eve. So Antti Lepisto trying to improve off of that 1:14.3, currently looking pretty good to do so, entering the final sector. This is such a challenging sector for the GTPs. This sharp right-hand corner with that high turtle curb on the inside makes it a real challenge to get around without losing traction. You can definitely dip all of your wheels onto that inside curb here on the penultimate corner, and the final corner, ducking back onto the banking, just try and hang on to the machine, try and keep the wheels underneath you as you head towards the line. Does Antti improve? Crosses the line? Yes, significantly improves up to pole.
We have a new provisional pole sitter. The number 2 machine, Antti Lepisto, right there. And oh no, looks like Gerald Baudu has a few little issues coming into turn 1 here on his qualifying lap and not going to get around in time to finish one. This is another car on track, Jens Goring. He's in these Audi GTO cars, currently provisional 17th on the grid, and looks like he is going to park it there. And given that there's only 20 seconds left here in qualifying, that is going to wrap it up for all of the competitors out here. And we'll have our starting grid for you here in just a moment. And we saw that Antti Lepisto in that number 2 machine was able to come in with that fast lap and grab pole position away from Hugh Haycox, who has won the first 2 rounds. You see there Hugh Haycox joining him on the front row in second place, Alex Ott in third, and we have Matthias Hovdal in 4th place, Aaron Humphrey rounding out the top 5. Timothy Vaughn there in 6th place, Ross Banfield in 7th, looks like Aitor Sintes Galindo in 8th place, Fabian Jungbluth 9th, Brendan Lim in 10th position, Laust Olsen there in 11th, Tim Yonk 12th, Xavier Sanchez, Mark Torres Exposito, as well as Martin Krychek rounding out the top 15. Justin Kirby, a familiar name I recognize there in 16th place, Antonio Alvarez, Jacob Leon, and then there's several more GTP cars here that did not turn a qualifying time. Juan Bello, Beckham, Jassier, Jason Clapper, Kurt Clapper, Gerald Boldu, Harry Wire, Jose Garcia for the GTPs.
We've got our GTOs with Yuka Leskala on pole. We got Topi Kortanyami in that second position with Javier Del Olmo lining up in third behind Yuko. Esco is going to line up behind Kortanyami. So we got Kortanyami and Letanyami in a line. Then we got Ian Haycox in the 5th position with Kurt Crum starting off in 6th. Franco Scurry is going to start off in the 7th spot with Arturas Kundelis in the 8th position. Doug Cloud in 9th with Bjorn Ackerman starting off in the 10th position. Marco Lay is going to start off 11th next to Timothy Reed. Then we got Philip Savoy is going to start off in the 13th spot next to Cam Porter, who's in the 14th spot in the GTO today. Daniel Repetto down in 15th with Michael Haynes in 16th. Then it's Jens Gerding who's going to start off in the 17th position, the last of your qualifiers to set a time in the Audis, with Carlos Fonseca and Adam Brogdon rounding out your 19 Audis in the field out of 44 cars today.
Adam, we were talking before we went live here about the grid, and I'm really impressed to see 44 cars out here, and we're going to run through some of these cameras that we're riding on board with here today. First up, we have Ian Haycox, and amazing story out of Ian Haycox here. He's always one of the front runners in the GTO class, and if you notice throughout this race, He actually only has one foot down there. He lost his other in a motorcycle accident, and he is currently recovering from it, but he has lost no speed at all. Another one, Doug Cloud. I love watching Doug because he's always smiling. No matter what part of the race he's in, he's always smiling, and he's there wearing that virtual reality headset as well. We'll check in with him throughout the race. Also have a few more. Cam Porter here in a nice new chair. No longer a rocking chair out there for Cam Porter. He's also in these GTO cars. And the last one we have today is going to be Laust Olsen in the GTPs. Laust, let's see here, is going to be starting in the 11th spot and providing us some onboard shots from inside that blue and yellow GTP car.
Yeah, Joey, I'm a little surprised to see a couple of our usual frontrunners starting off further back in the pack. Xavier Sanchez for one, Laust Olsen as well, Martin Krajcik down in 15th. So 15th for Krajcik, 13th for Sanchez, and Laust Olsen in 11th position. Fabian Lienbluth and Acer Sanchez Galindo 9th and 8th, so quite a strong strength of field in the GTPs today for sure.
I love these camel races because you always get those regulars that you're talking about, Adam, and they come out here, they have tons of seat time, they understand the ebb and flow of the traffic with the Audis they come up on, and I tell you what, this racetrack, it's gone through several different configurations, but this specific, most updated one has a lot of funnel points, mainly that kind of turn 4, 5, 6 chicane. We've seen the real-life Indy cars and also NASCAR Xfinity cars have extreme crashes and trouble if they try to go too wide and jump over those apex curbs. And here's another section that it really starts to funnel down. These cars are coming through what I believe is the turns 8, 9, 10 complex right here. And you see, even with the pace car speeds, how busy it is when you start to add in Audis at a different closing rate. Adam, it gets busy out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, those chicanes are really hard to jump over. We'll probably see the Audis give it a shot, but they're going to damage their front splitters if they're not careful doing that. But let me tell you, it is a challenge to take these new sharper corners. They did that to try and slow down the Indy cars to give them more places to pass. But the penalty that it inflicts on these GT machines is a real challenge, and the GTPs have got to be careful too, because they could damage their wings.
Looks like the Porsche pace car is out front right now. It's got the lights off. He's going to be peeling off drivers right down to pit road here, which means the field is in the hands of Antti Lepisto. The light blue car with the black racing stripe leads them slowly around this final 14th turn up onto what is the Indianapolis Oval. He's going to be looking for Barney the flagman. He's patiently waiting with the green flag in his hand, and Antti Lepisto with a great jump just squirts ahead of the rest of the field, and it actually looks like Alex Ott might be challenging for second place down here into turn 1. These cars are already up to speed. We're looking at 3 wide, a little bit further back in the GTP field, but for the most part, everybody gets through turns 1 and 2 very cleanly, headed into turn 3, but let's check on the GTO start.
Side by side for the lead of the GTOs, Yuka Leskola, Topi Kortaniemi. Topi's trying to go around the outside, or rather the inside of turn 1, can't do it, trying to do the over-under, but switches back to that long right-hander. Yuka Leskola hanging on at the moment. Looks like we've had a couple of problems with Gerard Brodeur in the GTPs ahead of them, but here he comes through that quick switchback section. The GTOs catching up to the back of the GTPs. Here comes Topi, trying to make the run on the back straight.
Yeah, so lead battle already in GTO. You see them catching the GTP cars. This is going to be an interesting mix. This field is really going to start to funnel, and oh no, these GTO cars are actually faster than the GTP cars through this slow mechanical speed section. And you're right, Topi has stolen that lead away from Yuka. And look at that Javier Del Olmo in that orange car lurking right there in the 3rd place.
Absolutely, but Yuka Leskola with a great run right now, trying to make his way back up to the back of Topi. I think he's going to be able to do it on the front straightaway. And wow, Antti Lepisto out to a 2.5-second lead over Hugh Haycox of the GTP. So the battle for the lead is definitely here. The GTOs, look at that though. Topi backing up Yuka Leskola through the penultimate corner. Now finally onto the backstretch. Here we go. Yuko a little far back, but he's going to get a big draft from Topi's box machine ahead of him.
I've been keeping an eye on the GTP field up front. They're pretty stagnant right now. We'll see if it keeps this up at all, but you're right. Look at Yuka make a move, going down into turn 1, super late on the brakes, going side by side with Topi. They're actually going to go side by side through turn 2 as well, but Yuka's going to have the track advantage leading up into this sweeping right-hand turn 3, but look at Courtney pushing the limit here. It got single file wisely before the chicane.
It was a misshift from Topi, actually. He goes double file with Javier Delomo, goes off the track a little bit. Here comes Escaleta Niemi. It's 3 wide down the backstretch. Who's going to be the latest of the late breakers? Esco gets ahead of the 2 of them. Topi's lost 2 positions now.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, here comes Ian Haycox. He almost gets in the back of Javier Delomo. It's 5 wide down there in the back of the field.
What a GTO race. Let's keep the camera right here because it is nose to tail, pretty much 2nd through 10th place. Ian Haycox mixing it up. Oh no, he gets 2 wheels off in the dirt. That's definitely going to affect his momentum. He's got to be checking his mirrors from whoever's there in 6th place, probably going to be taking a look up the inside. But one thing to note, had a look at this, 1 foot. Okay, he's got the hand controls for the throttle. This guy is driving out there with 1 foot, and he's up in the top.
Yeah, absolutely he is. Doing a great job trying to hang on to those positions. He's going to be under a little bit of pressure from Arturas Kundalis behind him. But Topi Kortaniemi trying to gain that position back from Escaleta Niemi. Unable to do so. Wow, he's going to try and give it under the brakes on the inside of turn 1. Esco takes it a little deep, actually. That's going to give Kortaniemi a strong run on the outside of turn 2. Now through turn 3, a long sweeping right-hander. He's got the position.
I can't believe that we're just a couple laps into this and this GTO field has not let up one bit on this battle for 2nd place. Like you're seeing here, it's Courtney leading Lightning over Javier Del Olmo right now, and I think they're just trying to figure out who wants the draft on these long straightaways.
Yeah, we're looking now at the battle between Doug Cloud, Arturas Kundalis, and Kurt Crum down there in the battle for 6th position. Everyone taking that corner so deep. We got cars exiting stage right quite often down there in the back of the field. A lot of people out braking themselves there, unfortunately.
Let me explain a little something to you guys, that this Indianapolis road course has a few different configuration changes and the brake zones are very heavy. These cars out here have huge turbochargers, huge horsepower, and that means their sprints are very fast. They get up to these tremendous speeds, incredibly fast, and then they got to get hard on the brakes as it looks like Doug Cloud is trying to hold off Kurt Crum behind him.
Absolutely, Doug doing a good job holding off Kurt Crum. You can see just how aggressive this opening stint of the race is for all these drivers. Doug absolutely gripping the wheel, absolutely gripping the shifter. We got a nice pass going on up ahead between Franco Scurry and Arturas Kundalis as well. They're side by side going into turn 1.
I know we haven't covered much of the GTPs, but this GTO action is where it is at on track right now. And as we just saw, I believe that was Doug Cloud there getting past, and gosh, I don't know where to catch up from because actually it looks like Yuka Leskala out front starting to stretch it out over Topi Kortaniemi, over Esco Lightami out right now.
And we're going to go up to Ott up here, who's in a battle. Alex Ott in 3rd position, getting caught by Matthias Hovdahl. Hovdahl unable to make the pass here on the beginning of this lap. We're on lap 4, I believe, lap 5 rather, for the GTPs now, and they're actually going to start to catch up to the back of the GTOs at the end of this lap.
That's going to introduce a whole new variable into this race. We've been seeing them race within their class. You see how narrow the racetrack gets? Well, when you start intermixing them, it's going to get even busier out there, and we're still watching this battle up here with Ott, and my goodness, I'm really impressed with how close that all of these GTP cars, but Adam, I gotta tell you, I'm a little worried when these 2 trains finally intersect, like what you were mentioning.
Battle for P1 on the GTOs again. Topi Kortaniemi trying to make a move on Yuko Leskala. He's regained that time that he lost in the misshift, but Yuko hard on the brakes. He's going to go side by side. We're also side by side for the battle for the GTP lead as well between Antti Lepisto and Hugh Haycox.
Hugh Haycox is going to take the lead away from Antti Lepisto there. There was a lapped car that was kind of in the way that affected that battle, but It doesn't matter now. There's still 33 minutes left, and here comes Antti Lepisto hard on the brakes, taking a look into turn one, up over the curb. He gets really squirrely, but thankfully saves the car. That's going to open the door for Alex Ott. Your new leader, Hugh Haycox, over Alex Ott. Antti Lepisto now in third place.
I can report that Yuka Lesko has so far held off Topi Kortaniemi right now as they have just exited the back straightaway as we watch this battle. Continue to watch this battle for the lead in the GTPs. It's now 4 cars long with Hugh Haycox, Alex Ott, Antti Lepisto, and Matthias Hovdal now.
4 cars indeed, because Hovdal has caught the back of Lepisto, and Adam, now is when it's gonna get really busy. Our GTP leaders have officially caught the back end of the GTO field. They're gonna have to start slicing their way through this traffic, but most importantly, it has to be wise decisions.
It has to be wise, it has to be clean. You can't afford to get any damage here. The straights are too long, you'll lose too much speed. Any damage to that front end of that GTP machine, you'll lose 10 miles per hour on the straights, and that's enough to lose you 3 to 4 positions over the course of the race. So these drivers have to be very careful as they go past Mark Olay in the 14th position. This is Alex Ott and Antti Lepisto trying to hang on to the back of Hugh Haycox.
Antti Lepisto is here in the slipstream of Alex Ott, but I think more than ever right now, it's gonna be about racing your way through traffic and capitalizing where you run into GTO cars, and you never know. The leader up there, Hugh Haycox, is starting to stretch it out. He's got about 0.7 of a second over Alex Ott, but that can all evaporate in the blink of an eye if you catch one of these GTO cars at the wrong spot.
And here's Javier Delomo trying to hold off Ian Haycox and Francos and Escaleta Niemi. As Lester Niemi and Haycox were side by side there for a moment. This is all going on just ahead of our GTP leaders who are catching up to 10th position just about now. So very hard racing going on. And honestly, I was expecting things to be a little calmer over the course of this race. But because of how close all of the battles are for the lead, this is going to be very intense once our leaders of the GTPs catch our leaders of the GTOs.
I do want to catch our breath here. Adam, did you just say camel and calm in the same sentence?
I did. It happens occasionally. Calm for Camel tends to be the most intense you get in most other series. So very exciting stuff. Looks like Antti Lepisto has a run on Matthias Hovdal for 3rd position in the GTPs. These two are going to go nose to tail now as they go head towards the front of the GTO pack. Matthias Hovdal taking a look. Antti Lepisto late on the brakes, but that's going to put him right in the tire tracks of Timothy Reed, the GTOs, who's battling with Kurt Crump for 9th.
Yeah, this is the really busy part of the GTO field, and you see Hovdal, he's going to take a look up Antti Lepisto. What a move, capitalizing on that traffic from the number 7 Hovdal. He read that perfectly. He escapes through the traffic, and now look at him put distance between him and Antti Lepisto.
Absolutely. Now the fast GTPs are in with the fast GTOs. These GTOs are not going to want to give up any time, and neither will the GTPs who are trying to cling on to Hugh Haycox in the lead. They're up to Franco Scurry. That's the battle for 4th position that we've been watching going on in the GTOs. The GTPs cutting through, starting to create gaps right now for all of these drivers. Going back now to a couple, I believe this is the Audi Sport machine of Franco Scurry. He's trying to hang on to the back of Ian Haycox.
Yeah, this is the meat and potatoes of that GTO field. They're intermixing right now, and Hugh Haycox is starting to run away, but really the battle is on for 2nd place between Alex Ott and Matthias Hovdal. Hovdal made that tremendous pass on Lepisto and got through the GTO traffic very cleanly. It's pretty much put him right on the back of our 2nd place runner, Alex Ott.
And those of you looking at the timing and scoring screen, you may see how close Kortaniemi is to Leskala in the GTOs. Kortaniemi looks like he's actually decided to stay behind Leskala for the moment and just ride and wait for these faster GTPs to sneak on through. He might take a pick, but it looks like he's content to let Yuko lead this thing.
And speaking of that, here comes Alex Ott by our GTO leaders that you're just mentioning. Goes by, Topi goes by, Yuka there nice and clean, and you're right, Kortaniemi is kind of hounding the back of Yuko, and We're used to seeing Leskala really run away with this GTO class. He's definitely one of the fastest racers on iRacing in these Audis. Oh, look at that! That was very close, intermixing traffic between the GTPs and GTOs.
That was Hovdal hanging on to it with Topi Kortaniemi trying to take to the apex. Hovdal was there, both of them working together to stay out of each other, but that was one of the biggest saves I've ever seen in a GTP from Hovdal. Let's take a look at that again.
I mentioned how aggressive Hovdal was through the GTO traffic on the lap before, and here he's going to try to go around the outside, which he's already in the dirty air, and just barely hangs on to it. You see how fast those Audis are in the slow speed sections. They're actually faster than the prototypes.
Yeah, they are, and just a little bit faster through those quicker chicanes, and that's where the prototypes are running into issues. They want to go by, but they're really struggling to do so because it's just such a challenging time with the Audis being just as quick as them through those chicanes.
Looking at our GTO leaders right here, this is still Yuko Leskala leading over Topi Kortaniemi. Javier Del Olmo in the third place, but Javier's fallen off about 4.5 seconds off of this front two. It really is the battle between the green chameleon machine and the all black and gold wheels.
Absolutely, and they've got a little bit of traffic up ahead. That's Timothy Vaughn. Yuko Leskala backs off a little bit of nose-to-tail contact between Kortaniemi and Leskala. They've got Aitor Sentes Galindo tucked in behind him. He's trying to run away from Fabian Jungbluth and Ross Banfield behind him, so he's not going to want to wait around at all, and neither is Jungbluth, who takes the apex away from Kortaniemi, who then gets in the way of Banfield.
And this is going to get even trickier because this is where the Audis are very fast in comparison to the prototype, so Yuko has just got to kind of bide his time right now, let these GTP cars get by and get back into his rhythm. But yeah, you can't ever take a breath here at Campbell. You always have to have your head on a swivel out there.
Absolutely. It's just a real challenge for all these drivers to try and find out where they're trying to get their race going. It's a real challenge to try and hang on to the drivers up ahead of them. Taking a look at Laust Olsen in 11th position, he's under pressure from Antonio Alvarez and Martin Krajcik as well. The three of them in a battle.
Laust Olsen, you're right, he is one of our in-car cameras. We're going to take a look here. Here's Laust. He's starting to get some of the pressure here behind him from Antonio Alvarez. We're actually looking out the back at Antonio right now. Laust is going by GTO Topi Kortaniemi, and he's coming up on Yuko Leskala, so he's now passing our GTO leaders.
Absolutely, and he's able to sneak right by, but so is Alvarez. Alvarez clinging to the back of Yuko, and Alvarez actually might have an opportunity here because that was, oh man, Laust getting held up by Yuko. He's going to be able to slow off the corner. Here comes Alvarez up the inside of Yuko Leskala. He's going to have a little bit more speed as we go into the final sector. It looks like Franco Scurry's had a problem.
This is a great shot of kind of the ebb and flow of this traffic because you saw Antonio Alvarez really got through that traffic much cleaner than Laust Olsen, and it's closed right up onto the back bumper here. And like you said, Adam, a problem back here. We'll get a replay of this in the GTO field.
Yeah, this is Franco Scurry getting clipped by Arturas Alvarez, unfortunately. And this was Franco just trying to avoid getting into a GTP. Takes a shallow line through the corner, and that was Alvarez getting into the back of him.
Jumping up, I want to look at Fabian Jungbluth right now. I think he might be our closest battle, actually, as well as Aaron Humphrey and Antti Lepisto out here. Fabian Jungbluth's been battling Aitor Sentes Galindo out there, as well as Ross Banfield's kind of been right on his back bumper as well. This midfield GTP, it's just one misstep over the limit, and I feel like all of a sudden there's going to be 5 cars in a row.
Absolutely, and we're looking right now at Jungbluth tucked in behind Aitor Sentes Galindo. Galindo up ahead, just about 3/10 ahead, and they're going to catch a GTO at a fairly unfortunate point. This is Jens Göring up ahead of them in 16th in the GTOs. Galindo's going to get held up at the apex here. Jungbluth as well. Jungbluth needs to try and get a good exit, and he does, but he has to back off just a little bit. Doesn't want to take it 3 wide through the final corner.
Yeah, this is a really good GTP battle, only separated by a couple tenths of a second between 7th, 8th, and 9th. And here we go. Fabian Jungbluth gets the great draft on Sentes Galindo. He's going to take it super deep into turn 1. Look at this. Sentes Galindo sends it around the outside. They're going to stay 2 wide through turns 1 and 2. This is going to open up the door for Jungbluth on the inside going into turn 3, but Aitor Sintez Galindo says, no, you're going to have to find a new way around me, not this time.
Wow, that was an amazing defense from Sintez Galindo, absolutely using up his tires, but now it's another hard braking zone at the end of the back straight. We're riding on board with Ross Banfield, who's looking on at this battle as well, side by side now, as they head into the next strong left-hander. Now it's into the switchbacks again with Sintez Galindo with an advantage. Can Banfield capitalize? Almost gets into the back of Fugluth.
I am so impressed with the ability that Aitor has shown to hang it out around the outside. This track can get very narrow if you're up in that dirty marble stuff, and man, he is really sticking it around the outside, and it's forcing that competitor to pinch it down, and he has hung on to that 7th place, and wow, this is some tremendous racing in this GTP field. And one other thing that I don't want to forget about, we're actually going to get another pass potentially. Fabian Jungbluth right now tucked up in the slipstream of Aitor Sintez Galindo. Adam, this is where they went too wide for nearly half the track before, and looks like they're about to do it again.
Absolutely, and this is bringing Banfield, this has brought Banfield into the battle and also brought Sanchez into the battle. You talked about that misstep possibly bringing a 5-car battle. We're almost to that point. Antonio Alvarez is 5 seconds back, so it's only going to be 4 cars, but my goodness, it's a 4-car fight now for the 7th position.
Oh no, this is too wide through the chicane. This doesn't work well. Fabian Jungbluth is going to have to take a course cut. That's going to be a slowdown penalty. Aitor Sintez Galindo keeps on rocking. That's going to be Xavier Sanchez and Ross Banfield now taking it too wide on Aitor Sintez Galindo. He doesn't have a time to breathe out there.
Nobody has a time to breathe. Sintez Galindo fighting off the battle from Jungbluth. Now he's under pressure from Banfield. Xavier Sanchez looking on in the back, and Jungbluth is now caught up because of these guys going too wide. Everyone's a little slow right now. They've lost a full 1.5 seconds to Antonio Alvarez. Now it's almost going to be 3 wide into the braking zone for the next right-hander, and they make a little contact.
Just a little bit of contact puts 2 wheels of Banfield out on the dirt, and the defense of Aitor Sintez Galindo. Write this down. This is one for the ages, folks. He is still in that 7th position.
Amazing racing from all these drivers right now. Aitor Sintez Galindo still in the defense. Jungbluth's going to make a pass on Banfield here into the braking zone possibly. They might go side by side, but they can't afford to. They need to stay on the back of Sanchez and Galindo. Ross Banfield gives the position away, realizing that he's got 3 spots he can pick up if anyone makes a mistake ahead of him.
It's a little bit like a merry-go-round out there, Adam, with Aitor Sintez Galindo says, all right, who's the next challenger? All right, let's fend this one off. All right, let's fend off Banfield. Let's fend off Jungbluth. Let's fend off Alvarez. Who's next?
Absolutely. We're going to take a look at Cam Porter. Cam Porter trying to hold off his own battle right now is Daniel Repetto. And yeah, looking at Cam Porter right now, here he is on board, looking out the back of him. He's trying to hold off Daniel Repetto for the 10th position. Cam Porter looking for a top 10 in the Audi. Audi's gearbox, such challenges. We see him reaching for it right now, trying to hang on to this position.
Yeah, like you said, Daniel Repetto in the blue and orange Gulf-themed livery there, and these Audis punch a huge hole. So look at this slipstream effect that Repetto is getting. He's going to take a look down, but he's not close enough this time. Cam just needs to hit his marks. He looks nice and calm out there, even though he's got mirrors filled with another Audi.
Absolutely. It's hard to get under Cam's skin when it comes to his calmness, and Repetto trying to do just that, trying to poke his nose everywhere he possibly can to make a pass.
And guys, I don't want to take away anything from Cam Porter, but Sanchez, Jungbluth, Banfield, they're all battling it out once again here for this 8th, 9th, 10th place on the racetrack. Looks like Xavier Sanchez has now gotten by Fabian Jungbluth. He will be the new challenger for Aitor Sintez Galindo.
Aitor has to go a little bit wide because of Bjorn Ackerman, who is ahead of him. This is going to bring Sanchez right back into the battle with Aitor. Jungbluth looking to the inside of Sanchez. Sanchez covers off that move a little bit by a little bit of a drift through the braking zone. Ross Banfield trying to hang on to the back of these 4. They're going to catch up to Gerard Boldu and Philip Savoy in one of the slower GTPs and 13th in the GTOs in a moment.
Oh no, I was going to say, let's go to Hovdal. Let's leave it right here because Hovdal actually just made a mistake. This battle is going to be closer, but something to take note, P2 and GTP is starting to close up, and we've just passed halfway of this 40-minute race.
This is one of those races that's going to feel like it's an hour long for these drivers, and they do run hour-long races in Camel, but not today. This one's only 40 minutes, and that's why the desperation seems so high. A little bit of contact in the back from Antonio Alvarez, who makes contact with the outside wall in the exit of the final corner, but the battle for P7 gets compressed again as they go through turn 1.
It is 4 cars for this battle for 7th. Leading Aitor Sintez Galindo, Xavier Sanchez, Fabian Jungbluth, and Ross Banfield. Those are the 4 GTP cars that you see on the screen right here. They're coming up to an Audi. Not going to get in the way too much here. Looks like the GTP cars are all going to go drivers left. But this is going to set up a huge drafting opportunity once again, Adam, to head out onto the front straightaway once they get there.
Cam Porter right now looks like he actually got passed by Daniel Repetto, unfortunately, so trying to cling to the back of him at this point. So, unfortunately for Cam, lost that 10th position. Let's take a look at this.
Going through the chicane here. It always gets narrow. Looks like the 20 car gets a great run. They're going to take it too wide. Adam, this is a big break zone going down in here, and always a good passing opportunity.
Absolutely, and Repetto able to get it late on the brakes from Cam Porter. We hop back now to the battle for P2. Alex Ott and Matthias Hovdahl as their nose to tail going through turn 3.
Yes, this is Hovdahl and Ott right now. Like I said, this battle is starting to close up for the GTP 2nd place. Hugh Haycox has started to fall into his familiar rhythm of round 1 and round 2. He currently has a 5.5-second lead over his closest competitor, Alex Ott, which we are watching on screen.
Absolutely, and Hovdahl wants to get this position from Ott and stay within reaching distance of Hugh Haycox. 3 wins is hard to overcome, and Hovdahl's going to need all the points he can to hang on to the back of him for the rest of the season.
I've really been impressed with Hovdahl's pace. Now, nothing to take away from any of these front runners or really any of these competitors out here racing today, but Hovdahl started 4th. He's passed several GTP cars to get up into the position that he's in, and he's continuing to show the speed, and I think now he's going to be in a great position for this slipstream to take a look down into turn 1.
Absolutely, car got a little bit loose on him on the exit of the final corner, but it looks like Hovdahl, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Hovdahl's trimmed out a little bit less than Alex Ott. We know that Hovdahl tends to run fairly low downforce in his GTP, but Ott has been able to stay away from him during this.
And important to note, they're actually coming up on P2 and the leader in GTO. This is actually going to send Alex Ott a little bit wide. This is an awkward space here through the chicane, but ultimately it was Matthias Hovdahl that lifted way off of the gas. I feel like he could have really pushed the issue right there.
Yeah, but he's seen that happen multiple times. This is actually going to box out Topi Kortaniemi in 2nd position in the GTOs. He's going to have to wait behind Hovdahl, but look at this battle for 8th. Look at this chaos going on screen, and we have a wreck behind. That's Ross Banfield, who's gone around.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ross Banfield, I think he just got a little bit too happy with the throttle pedal, and oh no, around he goes into the infield. That's such a shame because he was in this battle for 7th place. Look at all of these cars in one screen. You see Ross on the tail end of these GTP cars. He's the gray with the purple highlights here. He's going to come into turn 3. He's on the bottom side of the racetrack, and I just think he's in a little bit too hot at him, and oh no, he gets collected from a GTO car.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really hard to see through all the smoke and all the chaos going on. The GTOs often will make a little bit of contact there. Back up to the battle for P2, though, between Ott and Hovdahl. Hovdahl has still not been able to get past Ott. It looks like he's running out of rear tires. Oh, Krajcik and Olsen got together. And they've now collected Banfield again.
Yes, we have 4 GTP cars around in the final chicane. This is chaos as more GTO cars are coming through. I'm sure we're going to get a replay as Laus looks a little confused himself.
Yeah, this was a wreck that happened up ahead of them, actually, between 2 of the GTOs. This was a wreck between Jens Goering and Doug Cloud. Jens trying to take it up the inside of that chicane, and that just created a bottle-up moment that actually got Laus some damage. So there we see the results of the incident, but Jens Goering in the 43 machine, he's the one who actually ends up starting this thing. Look at the chaos going on around him. He's going to take it up the inside of Doug Cloud here, and just spear him in the door, and that creates the contact that then collects the rest of the drivers.
You called it perfectly, Adam, and then just look at that dominoes. When one falls, the rest will follow suit, and unfortunate for quite a few innocent bystanders in that. And We've talked about the funnels here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in this road course, and that section is definitely a very big funnel where it goes from multiple lanes in the brake zone to one wide coming out of there.
Absolutely. Taking a look once again further back in the field. There are a couple of our GTPs having some battles right now. This is Timothy Vaughn and Aaron Humphreys on screen for 5th position in the GTPs, as that battle for 7th has actually broken up because of that incident that we saw. So these two drivers are in a fairly close battle, about half a second between Humphreys and Vaughn, and they're catching back to the back of Topi Kortaniemi and Jukka Leskala. Speaking of that, Kortaniemi has been able to hold Leskala to about 1.5 seconds, and you may think that's a long distance, but actually that's pretty good for hanging on to the back of one of the fastest GTO drivers we've ever seen.
That's a great point, and if we go back a couple laps, I'm pretty sure Topi actually got held up as well. He's getting held up right now by GTP cars, so even though he's got 1.5 seconds to Yuko, it might not even be his pace. It might just be the race and how Camel unfolds throughout this entire 40 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. You could race the best race of your life, but if the racing gods are not smiling down upon you, you're going to have some holdups. And we just saw one for Jukka Leskala behind Timothy Vaughn, had to hit the brakes quite early going into the penultimate corner. But now he's going to have to be a little bit loose on the gas, as that was Aaron Humphreys going around him. So Jukka Leskala lost out a little bit due to traffic, but Topi's also losing out as well. He had to go shallow off of the final corner. So yeah, the racing gods giveth and they taketh away, but sometimes it feels like they take it only from you.
Sometimes it does feel like when it rains, it pours out there. And unfortunately, yeah, that Leskala and Kortaniemi battle stretched out, as well as that battle for 5th and 6th place. So we're going to jump back. This is 8th place. Timothy Reed right here in the GTO cars. Looks like he's battling it out with Doug Cloud behind him and Kurt Crum in front of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Doug's about 6 seconds back, with Kurt Crum up ahead of him, just about 2/10. Timothy Reed hard on the brakes. A little bit of rear brake bias makes his car slide a touch going into turn 1. He's trying to take advantage of the fact that Kurt Crum's trying to conserve a little bit of tires here for the final 10 minutes of this race. And you can see that Timothy's being a little bit more aggressive on entry than Kurt Crum. This is going to hold up Brendan Lim, who's a lapped GTP on the same lap as these guys also. But Timothy Reed with the good run, he's going to actually dive it to the inside. Looks like he might have gotten a little bit of a cut course he has to pay.
Yeah, a little bit of an off track there, but looks like he's going to keep pace with Kurt Crum. And if you guys remember, Kurt Crum was very strong at the Nürburgring, one of our front runners up there, and Timothy Reed is having a fantastic race himself. He started all the way back in the 12th position in GTOs, and he's on the back of Kurt Crum, who's 7th right now, trying to take that away.
Absolutely, and take a look at this. Oh man, that was Timothy Reed braking while he was turning a little bit, got that car to four-wheel slide a little bit. It's got four-wheel drive, but I don't think four-wheel slide was, well, it was the intention. This thing used to be a rally machine, but in this road configuration, not the best thing for your tires.
No, not indeed, but he is nice and close to Kurt Crum right now, going over the yard of bricks there to cross over another lap. He's in the slipstream. He's going to take a look down into turn 1. This is a great passing opportunity. If he can outbrake Kurt Crum, he's got the inside line, a little bit of a lockup. Kurt Crum's going to go over, under, but ultimately it's going to be Timothy Reed that looks like he will hang on to the 7th position, because he now has the track position advantage of the inside line through 3.
Yeah, absolutely. The inside line's so important in the Audi. It doesn't have the downforce to just force its way around the outside and cling to that downforce. So Timothy Reed, by positioning his car in front of Kurt Crum and clinging to that apex, he was able to make those passes. Kurt Crum looking to make a late lunge towards the apex. Timothy Reed gives him the room and possibly runs himself out of some room. Can Kurt Crum swing it around the outside this time around? He's got the advantage, but Timothy Reed slings it around the outside of the next corner. They're both trading the slings right now, and that's Timothy Reed is going to have an advantage coming off the corner. This is going to hold up Martin Krajcik behind them.
Yeah, and ultimately Kurt had to lift just a little bit for that GTP car, and now at an arm's length distance away from Timothy Reed, he's going to have to recollect himself, figure out a new way to get back up onto the bumper of Timothy Reed. But look at this, Adam. This is a great way to do it. Just a couple corners later, let's get up in the slipstream.
Yeah, absolutely. He gets up in the slipstream now. Timothy Reed's going to get an assistance from Hugh Haycox here. Got a couple of seconds of good draft, and that might be enough to make the difference down to the braking zone to turn 1. Kurt Crum coming up quick. Is he going to be late on the brakes? He decides better of it. Maybe hopes that Timothy Reed's going to take it too deep into turn 1, and Reed does lock up the inside right, but fortunately hangs on to it. Kurt Crum's going to have to try again.
Very impressed with Kurt Crum's attitude right now because Timothy Reed definitely caught him. He passed him, but Kurt Crum's being very respectful in how he races out there, and he's leaving plenty of room, and he's not letting Timothy Reed go, most importantly. He's had a couple lunges, left space, and here he is once again taking a look into this brake zone. I gotta wonder, Adam, I wonder if Kurt Crum's car may be a little bit more trimmed out than Timothy Reed.
I mean, it's possible that you can run different wing settings. You can, especially, what's not graphically shown here is there is a high downforce wing that has about 2 more, what I like to call pizza holders on the back of that machine that, unfortunately, we don't have the graphics for, but it looks like Fabian Jungbluth has held off Xavier Sanchez. Xavier Sanchez trying to get past Jungbluth for the last couple of laps, but Jungbluth able to sneak by.
I actually, yes, I'm happy you brought this up because Sanchez was actually on the back of Sintes Galindo. I think that Xavier Sanchez might have had a problem this lap that Fabian Jungbluth got by somewhere, but I want to bring it back to Aitor Sintes Galindo here as we're going to catch an action of this replay here. Yes, this is exactly what's going to happen. Look at that, Adam, just getting held up from an Audi in the GTO field, and that's all it takes to lose that position.
It really is all it takes to lose that position, and so he gets held up, and that loses him about 2 seconds down that back straightaway, unfortunately. I got to report Laust Olsen's had some more issues. He's just trying to hang on to it at this point.
He is, and oh gosh, Aitor Sintes Galindo took it really deep into turn 1, passing a lap car, and I've mentioned his name quite a bit. I just feel like he's at the arm wrestling table fending off all of the challengers. It's been Jungbluth, it's been Sanchez, it's been Alvarez, it's been Banfield, and now it's his once again familiar friend Fabian Jungbluth has caught up and now officially challenging him for that 7th place position once again.
They're ducking through the battle. Oh no! That was the battle for 10th position behind between Franco Scurry and Repetto, and unfortunately Scurry gets into the back of Repetto and sends him around.
Little bit of GTO action further back there as you caught that. Hard on the brakes, unfortunately, a little bit of lockup here. We're going to catch on this all with Franco Scurry.
Yeah, absolutely. Riding on board with Franco Scurry. They've got Sintes Galindo and Jungbluth streaking by, and I think this actually made Scurry brake a little later than he anticipated, and he couldn't stay out of Repetto. You can see the car locked up and went straight. He jammed on the brakes to try and hang on to it. Couldn't quite do so. And that was Xavier Sanchez just barely missing him. Holy smokes. Everyone lucky to get out of that with as minimal damage as what happened.
Yeah, like you said, just got in a little bit too deep. And not only that, but he had a GTP car up the inside. There was a lot going on in that corner for sure. Jumping back up, this is a man we haven't mentioned nearly all race. Hugh Haycox continues to lead the way over Alex Ott. I mentioned that he had pulled out a gap, but Adam, Alex Ott has crawled it back to within 3.5 seconds. This race is far from over, especially with all the mixed class traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Ott can keep up that pace, he's going to have a really good opportunity to try and get by Hugh Haycox. Now, granted, you said 5.5 minutes left in this race, so not a lot of time. Xavier Sanchez looks like he's had another problem. He's now reversing back onto the track after making contact with the outside wall. This was a self-spin, unfortunately, for Xavier after getting into the inside curb. I can also report that Aitor Sintes Galindo has lost 7th place to Fabian Jungbluth.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The challenger has finally beat the arm wrestling champion. Aitor Sintes Galindo finally back to the 8th place position, but don't count him out yet because he is now tucked up into the slipstream of Fabian Jungbluth. I don't think he's quite close enough to make a move into turn 1 this lap, though.
Yeah, absolutely not quite close enough. As you said, he's going to poke his nose out just a little bit, get a little bit of clean air for that braking. It actually does help you decrease your braking distance to have that clean air pushing on your nose, but Sintes Galindo able to tuck in behind Jungbluth. He's going to have to hang on right now because they're looking at Aaron Humphreys up ahead of them for 6th position. And if Jungbluth and Sintes Galindo can ride Jungbluth up to Humphreys, we could get into another 3-way fight that could benefit Sintes Galindo.
Agreed, but I think the only thing that's working against him right now is that time clock. I'm noticing just over 4 minutes remaining, and Hugh Haycox right now is crossing the line, so we should probably have 3, maybe 4 laps of this race left here, and Yuka Leskala once again leading the way out front. Now, I know that you said Topi Korchinyaimi was really hanging on, but it's finally seeming like Yuka's got a hold of this race.
Yeah, about 3 laps ago, Torpy had a bad lap, and it just dropped him down to about 5 seconds. And ever since then, I think Topi's just kind of lost the will to try and press on and catch Yuko. It's hard to do around here. Yuko's so consistent most of the time, and so that's what's happening now. What was going on the front stretch was actually our 2 leaders crossing for the second time this race. That was Hugh Haycox and Yuka Leskala. So good racing between the 2 of them, and both of them with significant leads at this point. But Ott is still hanging on. Alex Ott in second position in the GTP is about 3.5 seconds back.
Yeah, Ott is hanging on there, as well as Sintez Galindo has yet to let go of Fabian Jungbluth as well. That battle for the 7th place continues on, and Fabian's starting to click off some really, really fast lap times, like what you were saying, Adam. He's down into the 1:15s, and certainly seems like he's bringing Ator with him.
He's the only driver to run his fastest lap last lap. That's an impressive stat considering how tired the tires get and how much battling Jungbluth has been doing over the course of this race. The fact that he's got, Sintez Galindo with a huge mistake there coming out of the later chicanes, and that's actually going to lose him about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's the unraveling moment for the number 15 car, Ator Sintez Galindo. He has put up a valiant fight out there, fending off numerous competitors throughout this entire race. And I think right now he's just got a little bit of clean air, and given that there's 2.5 minutes left, hit your marks and see what can happen.
Absolutely, and like you said, 2.5 minutes left. Not a lot of time to settle out any battles that you want to have on track right now. We do have a couple P12 in the GTPs between Jacob Leon and Tim Young. We also got that battle between Kurt Crum and Timothy Reed that continues on. These 2 have been battling for quite a while. Looking at them right now as they head down the backstretch.
Yeah, this is that Crum battle that we've been covering earlier. This is the number 11 machine, Kurt Crum, followed by Timothy Reed. Both pretty similar painted cars, but these 2 have been locked in that battle for what is the 7th place position, and I don't think it's going to be settled until that checkered flag falls.
Not at all, and I would expect that we'd probably see Reed try and make a late move. I'm guessing they're probably going to have probably 1 to 2 laps left for these drivers.
Oh no, and it looks like Timothy Reed is going to be into the wall. Just a lockup sends the car drivers right. He's going to get it collected, but oh no, hard into the wall again. There might be suspension damage on that car.
Yeah, unfortunately for Timothy Reed, just outbraked himself going into the braking zone behind Kurt Crum. We're going to get on board with this and see what happens. This is really easy to do when you don't have a lot of visualization of the corner that's upcoming.
You're right, this car in front of you blocks a lot of the visual markers, and it looks like he just got in a little bit too deep. Went right once he had that lockup to avoid the car, which was the right thing to do, but unfortunately ended in the wall himself.
Absolutely. So, Hugh Haycox, 45 seconds left. I believe he's coming up to the white flag this time around for our leader. Alex Ott has been closing, but not fast enough. Still 2.5 seconds back to Ott.
Yeah, 2.5 seconds back, and Hugh Haycox with that familiar sight looks up, takes that white flag from Barney the Flagman. He's only going to have 1 lap remaining here at the Indianapolis road course, but he's already got 1 GTO car off in front of him. I have a feeling this is going to be a far from easy lap to complete.
Yeah, this is going to be a challenging lap for Hugh Haycox. He's got a lot of traffic to deal with. He's got Brendan Lim, Doug Cloud, who's going to go through the chicane here just ahead of Lim. Lim's got to figure out where to go. He's got to navigate all of this traffic, and he's got to hope that Lim doesn't challenge him too hard in the quick portions, and their Lim does back off and let Hugh Haycox go, so that's going to help out Hugh. He's got Tim Junk and Jacob Leon up ahead, but I don't think he'll catch him before the end of the lap.
No, I don't think he's going to catch him, and for these rest of the competitors, I have a feeling this is a very worrisome sight because this has been a very familiar thing now here in the Camel Series. Round 1, Hugh Haycock's winning. Round 2, Hugh Haycock's winning. Here we are, round 3, rounding the second to last corner. Hugh Haycock's in that familiar number 4 machine, rounds the last final sweeping corner. He's going to look for the checkered flag and that yard of bricks. The number 4 machine is going to be your winner here in Camel GT.
And, you know, I could just take Hugh Haycock's and replace his name with Yuko Leskala. Now, that being said, Magny-Cours was a wild ride for Yuko, but today has not been so far. That being said, he's getting passed by the world. Battling for 6th position is Aaron Humphrey and Fabian Jungbluth just ahead of him. I don't believe Jungbluth is going to get the exit he needs to win this battle, but Yuko Leskala coming out of the final corner, he's going to let the traffic go ahead of him, try not to get part of that at all. He's a little low on fuel, but he's going to take the win here today at Indianapolis.
Indeed, that familiar number 1 machine taking home the win, and looks like Topi Kortanyami, his rival today, is going to be coming home in 2nd place, and all of the rest of these cars are going to be rounding out the final couple laps here as we still have competitors kind of finishing out the race. You see some of these GTP cars and GTO cars kind of finishing it out, and we will take a quick break and be right back with the official results. Well, you just witnessed an amazing race from the Camel GT series. As we always say, Camel and Com never mix, and wow, what a show these competitors put on. And it was officially Hugh Haycock's taking home the win in the GTP field, leading the way over Alex Ott. Matthias Hovdahl ultimately rounding out the podium there in the 3rd place. Antti Lapisto in 4th, Timothy Vaughn rounding out the top 5. Aaron Humphrey, Fabian Jungbluth in the 7th position, finally got around Aitor Sintes Galindo with a valiant race, holding off so many competitors, including Antonio Alvarez in the 9th place, Xavier Sanchez 10th place, and Ross Banfield in the 11th. Ross had some more issues later on. Jacob Leon there in 12th, Tim Yonk 13th place, Martin Krachurik there in the 14th spot, Jason Clapper, Laust Olsen also with some issues there. We were riding along with him when he had those. Kurt Clapper, Jose Garcia, and then all these cars a little bit further down had some problems and are laps down. Brendan Lim, Mark Torres Esposito, Gerald Boldu, Justin Kirby, Juan Bello, Harry Wire, and Beckham Jahir.
We got the GTOs with Hugo Leskala taking another win. This one a little less epic than last time, but very, very solid win over Topi Kortaniemi, who just fell off in the closing 5 laps of the race. Couldn't quite keep up with Hugo Leskala through the traffic. Javi Del Olmo hangs on to a solid 3rd position, fairly uncontested. He would be the one that would be interesting to talk to about whether he had any interesting moments this race, because we didn't see him that often. Ian Haycox hangs on to a 4th position, going up 1 spot over Esko Letaniemi. Kurt Crum in 6th position with Doug Cloud in 7th. Timothy Reed in 8th. Franco Scurry able to hang on to 9th spot over Cam Porter and Daniel Repetto, who ended up getting spun off the nose of Scurry towards the end of that race. Felipe Savoy is going to come home in the 12th position with Bjorn Ackerman in 13th. Carlos Fonseca in the 14th spot. And then we get to our drivers who had some troubles. Michael Haynes, Jens Göring, Arturas Kundelis, and Adam Brogdon, as well as Mark Olay, who round out your GTO field.
Like I said, what a race that Indianapolis Motor Speedway was able to provide us. And actually looks like we have our winner. Hugh Haycox is going to be joining us here in the booth. And congratulations on the pole and win here today.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, I gotta say, I'm sorry, you started second. Pole was Anti Lapisto there, but the race win in round 1 was you. Race win at Magny Cours was you, and now the race win here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Are we just going to continue to see this dominance from you, Hugh?
Well, I really hope so. It'd be nice. Next week's going to be interesting, but, no reason why I can't.
Yeah, well, let's actually look forward to next week. Bathurst, such a different racetrack than what we saw here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Maybe the only similarities is that it's single file through some sections.
Yeah, it's going to be single file for a lot of it, isn't it? It's going to be very interesting to see how traffic behaves and where we can get through and probably where we can't.
Well, now, my last question to you here is that you ran away in round 1, you ran away in round 2, but Alex Ott was just kind of hanging out there, always about 2.5 to 3.5 seconds back, and depending on the GTO traffic, it seemed like there was a couple opportunities there that he might have been able to catch you. Were you worried about him at all?
Yeah, definitely worried. I had a pretty consistent gap, and as soon as we hit GTO traffic, it's kind of all over the place. It just really depends where you catch them. But yeah, this track's, I think it's quite hard to pull a gap. It's quite a short lap. Times are pretty close. But yeah, good job to Alex. Really good driving.
And before I let you go, is there anybody that you want to say hi to?
Yeah, hi to my dad, of course, and to Debs and all my family here in France.
That was your race winner, Hugh Haycox, in that number 4 GTP car. And it looks like Adam has caught up with Topi Kortaniemi.
Yeah, Topi, fantastic race today. You definitely raised some eyebrows up here in the booth. Hanging on to the back of Hugo Leskala is no mean feat. And that battle he had side by side with him early on in the race is also pretty epic. Talk to me about your race today.
Yeah, I know Yogo was faster, so I needed to make the move early and hope that Anisaro 2 can make for the gap, big enough gap for Yogo to lose the draft, but it ended up the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. But that being said, an epic drive today. I think this is one of the few times that we've raced this new Indianapolis layout in the Audis. What do you think about how the new layout fares for the multi-class racing here in Camel?
I think it works pretty well. I'm new to the Camo Chaos, so I don't know what the baseline is, but it's a fun track, multi-class or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And next week we head to Bathurst, which, when it comes to multi-class chaos, it's hard to get more than Bathurst. What are your thoughts heading into that round?
Not sure if I can race. I'd like to, but I'm not sure if I have the time.
Well, congratulations on the second place regardless. And is there anyone you want to thank for your high position today?
My team, of course, Bike from Beach Racing, and our partners, and you guys, of course, and the fellow racers for a good fight.
Well, congratulations on second place in the GTOs, Topi, and we look forward to talking to you in the future, and we hope to see you race in the future as well.
Thanks, Adam.
That was Topi Cortinimi, second place in the GTOs. And we have Aitor Sintes Galindo, who's going to be talking to Joey, and he had quite an epic race himself.
Aitor, I mentioned your name probably a million times in this broadcast. I referenced it seemed like you were the arm wrestling champion holding off all of those competitors back behind you. Take us through that race. It seemed like it was just one after another trying to get by you.
Today, well, I did not have any pace today, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't know why I managed to get away from everybody with the fights and everything. Hopefully, it was fun on camera because it was fun on the track. But yeah, not the best race results wise. I think we have to accept that there are too many quick guys today and this season to be able to fight for a win or podium in the top 5. But yeah, very fun race nonetheless. And yeah, hopefully next week I have the same fights as today.
Well, it might not have been for the lead of the race, but it was some of the best racing that we saw all day. You were holding off 3-4 GTP cars at a time, and I want to ask you, did you work on the setup a lot to be able to hang on the outside, or were you just that confident in the brakes to really push the issue when somebody challenged you in those brake zones?
Well, good question. I shouldn't think it's set. Well, probably set that because I think I have more wing than the other guys. Maybe I had a little bit of wing, but I think basically full confidence in the brakes, full confidence in the competitor, because after all it's Camel, and in Camel you can trust whichever is on the side of you. So yeah, basically many years of fighting, because if you think that's the best fight every single day, you should have seen the same fights I've seen after. Well, it's the same thing that happens on 2020, 2021 and such. So yeah, I'm glad that you liked it. But yeah, it's the usual business for me.
Well, yes, we definitely enjoyed it. And before I let you go, is there anybody that you want to say hi to?
Well, my usual suspects, GSRC guys for the amazing broadcast as usual, family and friends are watching, the Camel community, and shout out to the winners and podiums, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, Happy New Year indeed. That was Aitor Sintes Galindo, ultimately finishing in the 8th place position here today. And I believe we have one final interview standing by with Adam, and it is Cam Porter.
Yeah, Cam, it's my first time seeing you in your new rig, so congratulations on that. And how was it driving the Audi there at Indy? This place definitely puts you through the gears.
It sure does. I really enjoyed that race today, actually. Despite having a minor incident with one of the GTP cars, I think they tried to time a pass, and coming out of the last corner, they were expecting me to track out a little bit, and they just hit me right straight in the rear bumper. So I looked at the replay, and I think that was just unfortunate timing. So I'm not feeling too bad about that. But I had a really fun race with Daniel Repetto. After he got by me, I kind of got unlucky with the traffic and fell back a little bit, but then unfortunately had an incident later, ended up pressuring me at the finish line. So that was a really fun race with Daniel.
So, I know that a lot of the Camel drivers have swapped seats quite often, but how are you enjoying the Audi at the beginning of the season, and especially dealing with the traffic at a place that's as challenging to handle as this with the new layout?
Yeah, I enjoy driving the Audi. I've driven the last 3 seasons, actually. I've driven both the Audi and the GTP. I've just been usually doing GTP on the broadcast races, but I usually do GTO during the week. So I'm actually accustomed to the car already. I'm not fast in it, mind you, but I have fun driving it. And yeah, managing traffic here today was difficult, especially through the chicanes. If one of the Nissans forced a too wide situation in a chicane, you really lost a lot of time. So that was kind of tough to deal with. But fun race, just one of the things you have to deal with in Camel.
Absolutely, Cam. Congrats to you on your top 10. Is there anyone you want to thank today?
I just want to thank GSRC for putting on a stellar broadcast every week, and we'll see you next week.
We definitely will. Thank you, Cam Porter, finishing P10 in the GTOs. Back to you, Joey.
Yeah, well, I think that is going to do it for all of our interviews today. And just want to say thanks to the team, Dougie, and then especially you guys, Adam and Joe, because I've got you here. Happy New Year's to both of you, and Happy New Year's to everyone out there tuning in and watching. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race for the Camel GT Series is Bathurst, Saturday, January 7th at noon Eastern. And be sure to check out all of the other broadcasts listed here. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.